typical image of the son who's going to take over, or the family who's going to take over, is like, they don't deserve it. They haven't worked hard. They're not bought in. I think of the Caddyshack movie where the lazy son, I don't know if it's Danny Boy, or I'm trying to remember his name, but that's usually the image of who's going to take over. And often there's some version of that going on where the energy or the original drive doesn't exist, but yet the father, or maybe the starting one, like you said, that had the lightning in the bottle, they feel somewhat obligated to pass it down, even though that maybe the horsepower doesn't exist in the next heir.
Exactly. And in fact, for me, it was probably a blessing in disguise, because I really didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit that my father had. Mm-hmm. And, by that time, he had already sort of moved himself up to like chairman and CEO, and had hired a professional president, because I was coming back and I was 27. Even if the business had stayed really viable on its own, he had already hired someone to be the president. My role was to shadow him and be the assistant to the president for a few years until I was old enough to take over. But, many families don't have that all figured out that way, right? And so just what I do now is I help families look at that whole process on a much longer term basis than they probably are. So a proper transition from one generation to the next should be like a minimum of 5 years, if not 10 years in the planning. But often families don't get out in front of it soon enough or early enough. And then they end up doing a transition in a crisis when someone has a health event, or someone gets divorced, and now there's new ownership structures and new things come into play. So I always try to help people get a longer term perspective on things and be objective and sort of look at it and plan it on a longer term basis to make sure you get, and you alluded to it earlier, you talked about transitioning the leadership and the ownership. And those are two different things, and they don't always happen at the same time. And that's another thing people don't always realize.
Hey, thanks for watching these Golden Nuggets. And as a reward, I got another big fat Golden Nugget just for you. I wrote this book for you to help you get your act together online so you can grow your business better. You're searching, you're wanting to learn. This is a great book. Grab the book, grow your business.
Amazing, right?